how the classes will be held, how the grades will be assigned, including on the occasion of the exam. We will also go through the entire program of the course. First of all, let me introduce, let's say, the panel here. My name is Lorenzo Lauci, and along with Edoardo Manni, we will be the professors in charge of this course. You can find also Matteo Ghezzi and Augusto Lazzè, which together with another Matteo Sabato, will be the components of this panel teaching side. They will support all didactic activities, organization of the course, etc. So for any kind of questions, in addition to ask, you can also make reference to them. Okay? We will then share all email addresses, contacts, etc. So it will be easier for you to engage and ask any question you like. Okay? So today's class, which is an introduction class, will be probably shorter than the usual timing. So you will be free a little bit earlier, but starting from Friday, we will have normal timing of this class all the time. Let's say, in line with the policy of the university since some years ago, the grades that will be assigned to you will be, let's say, calculated based essentially on two components. The first one is your attendance, active attendance in the class, and this is the reason why we organize the course in the way that I will mention in a few minutes. And the second part, of course, is the final exam. Actually, the larger part of your final grade will be determined during the semester based on the activities that we will carry out during the course. Therefore, your attendance is strongly advised and needed, because 70% of the final grade will be determined based on the activities carried out here. Tutto benissimo, grazie mille. No, penso che, I think you can hear me, right? Don't need the microphone, okay? Grazie. So, again, 70% of the final grade will be determined here, based on the activities, the engagement, the case discussions, the written assessments that we will carry out on a weekly basis, while the remaining 30% will be determined based on the final exam. Of course, these rules apply to students who attend the course, where attending the course means that you cannot exceed 4 missing classes during the entire semester. If you exceed this 4 missing classes threshold, you will, of course, have the chance to take the exam, but your entire grade will be determined on the final oral exam, which will be longer and will cover the entire program. Okay? So it's just, let's say, a balance in order to strike, let's say, an equilibrium between those who have engaged actively during the semester and those who, let's say, missed the course. All this information can be found, of course, also in the syllabus, but feel free to ask again if you need any clarification. As you may have noticed, based on the timetable of this course, we have a different composition of the classes on alternate weeks, okay? Because this week, the first one, we have today a plenary class where all of you should be attending, and the same happens on Friday, okay? Differently, next week on Tuesday, we will have a class split in two. Group 2 first, I believe, and Group 1 second, right? Then again on Friday we will have the plenary class. So based on this scheduling of the course, the activities that we will carry out will be organized as follows. In the week where we have a plenary class both on Tuesday and on Friday. We will have 2 theoretical frontal lessons, both on Friday and, excuse me, both on Tuesday and both on Friday. While in the week after, the one where there will be 2 groups on Tuesday and a plenary class on Friday, we will have on Tuesday 2 case discussions, which I will tell you what they are in a moment, and on Friday a written assessment. Okay? Why am I talking about cases apart from the name of the course? Because this course, which aims at allowing you to understand the main principles of business law and corporate law, is strongly based on the organization of the cases that we have laid out together with Professor Zacco Ginevri, who directs this book, which is at his 3rd edition, based on this book, which is essential for you. So I strongly invite you to buy it as soon as possible. You can find the references to this book on the syllabus, and you can buy it both online on the Groover Law website, but you can also find it physically. It's already available at 110 Lode, which is the bookstore close to Via Parenzo. I invite you to buy it as soon as possible because you will need it already starting from next Friday. Okay? And also this is a strong support for you during the written assessments that we will carry out on Friday. So since we will start with written assessments next week, I invite you to have the book because it will allow you to have a better grade. This course is based on both Italian and European principles of business law. Therefore, also non-Italian students have an interest in attending this class because the knowledge that you will achieve in this class will be, I would say, transversal. You can find the principles that we apply here in several jurisdictions. And this is something that has been also confirmed by other students that attended this course in the past and have been working as investment banker, financial advisors, etc., and they sent ex post emails saying, Professor, we can find these principles also, for instance, in the UK jurisdiction. So it is very helpful also for non-Italian students. Okay. This class assumes a basic knowledge of commercial law, corporate law, but we will refresh every time the main topics because we can understand that certain aspects can be a little bit blurred for you. And also in this respect, please feel free to ask questions if you don't remember something, if you think that we are assuming too much and therefore you are not able to follow properly, to understand everything, please, again, feel free to ask. Okay, we want you to understand perfectly what we explain here in class so that your study at home is easier and faster. Again, we will, let's say, have this theoretical class where we will explain to you the cases that you find in the book, of course, by exploring them also in the rationale and in the broader framework of business law. So our theoretical lesson in class will be crucial for you to understand all aspects of the case that is described on the book. Okay, so we will have 2 cases per week. The week after, group 1 will discuss in class one of the cases. The other group will discuss the other case, and on Friday you will have the written assessment with 2 questions on each case. So 4 questions in total. Every week you have to stay up to speed on the cases that we explain. It's easier for you if you do that. Also because the cases are not so long and the explanation is very deep, so you have a great advantage. In this way, if you comply strictly with these directives and you study every week, you attend the case discussion, you attend the written exam, at the end of the semester, you will attend the final exam for the remaining 30% of the grade with one single oral question on a selected part of the program, okay? So very quick, in our experience, all students of this course that came before you usually attend the exam in first call, because it's quick, if you attended the course. Differently, if you do not attend the course, you will receive a 3 questions final oral exam on the entire book, okay? So more questions, more program. Therefore, it is in your best interest to attend actively. During the course, we will understand your level of knowledge of this matter. We will know you, of course. We will remember about you based on your performance, on your attendance, on your interventions, and the quality of your written assessments, of course. Therefore, you will sit at the oral exam with a 70% portion of your grade already determined, and with that last question you can improve it, or you can stay the same, or if unfortunately things go wrong, but usually this does not happen because you are always very prepared in this university, you can of course reduce your grade, but again this does not happen. Questions so far? Everything clear? Okay. Am I forgetting something about the organization?
No. Just maybe for the discussion of the cases, because there is a theoretical lesson where we explain the main principles concerning the case, and then there is the case itself, which is up to you. We will briefly explain the case, but it's up to you to read the case, to understand, and having received the lessons before concerning the relevant principles. But the discussion of the cases is, I guess it's made by groups of students, so it's up to you to choose the group of students. I don't know if it's 3 or 5.
Yeah, we have
I guess it depends on the number, number of academic students. And so there is the theoretical lesson, then you study the case, then you prepare with the group the discussion of the case, and then you come the following week to discuss the case. You can use slides or not, depends on you. We suggest to prepare slides, or even very simple, very short slides, but just to help us and help yourself to understand, let's say, which is easier.
Correct.
So I guess this is, you can choose, I don't know, maybe you have a group, WhatsApp or something with all yourself, so you can organize the groups of students for the discussions.
Yeah, what matters here is that at the end of the semester, all of you have discussed the case on the Tuesdays at least once, okay? All of you. Of course, we will take note of who is discussing, and this is a requisite that you need in order to be eligible as an attending student and benefit of those benefits, that I just mentioned about the final oral exam, okay? So it is up to you, we will not call you, it's up to you to organize a group of 3-4 students every time, I would say, so that on Tuesday you will be able to discuss with your colleagues a specific case that of course will be communicated to you the week before, because it will have been explained to you. So it is important, this is something that we leave up to you, because we trust you. We want to have all students at the end of the semesters that have discussed at least once. So up to you to organize. Slides, as Professor Manni mentioned before, are highly suggested. Why? First, because they help you to discuss, to illustrate the case, because the case discussion is something that you should think like a discussion for the benefit of the rest of the class, not for the benefit of the professors or the person that are listening to you from this side. You have the task to allow your colleagues to better understand the case and refresh it in view of the Friday exam and the final exam. So we would like to have the three of you, the four of you here, standing up, talking to the rest of the class. We also would like to have an exchange of questions between the colleagues discussing and the colleagues listening, because an engagement is crucial and we will take account of it for the purposes of the final determination of the grade, because we will take notes. We are a lot on this side, so we have the capability to do that. We will also remember. And therefore, you have to speak to the class, and the slides support you in the discussion and your colleagues to follow better. Okay? In this perspective, you do not need to share with us the slides in advance. Okay? But it is strongly recommended to try to highlight in the slides the few key points that you can extrapolate both from the theoretical class and from the reading of the book. Because, for instance, many cases are very factual. No? This is something that is inherent to this, let's say, branch of the law, business law. Because, for instance, if we talk about a, let's say, tender offer with issues of insider trading, as we will do with listed companies, many of the, let's say, consequences of the implications underlying the case derive from the factual background of that case. Okay? This always happens. So, while during the theoretical frontal class we will focus mainly on the, I would say, theoretical part of the case, because we want you to understand the underlying principles of the case, it will be up to you to study deeply the facts of the case and be able to, let's say, summarize them for the benefit of the class, also with the support of the slides. Because, for instance, you will find when we talk about corporate rules, so it is helpful for you to have also a graphic representation of the corporate group with an organizational chart, etc., etc. So this is what we expect, okay, to see during a case discussion. And again, it is also it is all designed to allow you to perform better and have a higher grade during at the end of the exam. It is also designed in order to allow you to speak, because we strongly believe that for your next steps, also in your professional career, it is very important for you to have, let's say, advanced capabilities to speak in front of others, with a correct English, technical English. So we will focus on the use of a proper dictionary in business law. Therefore, I do not expect to hear that you call a company a society. Okay, this is something that I would like to avoid, at least from here until the end of the course. So I would like to really remark this, because it's an important part of our class. Again, questions? Please.
During the presentation, do each student have to talk in the presentation, or?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Yes, therefore, let's say, the organization of the groups for the case discussion, which is up to you, it is not limited to gather a number of students so that you can check the box, okay, I have discussed. No, the 3-4 students every time must discuss. So another important aspect for you is to decide how to manage the timing of the presentation between each other. We do not want to see a group of 3 when one student speaks for 20 minutes and the other for 2 each. Okay, we would like to have you speaking, let's say, for the same amount of time within the group. Okay, other questions? So, good question. I believe sorry, the thesis. The thesis, it happens to us to have students that ask the thesis. It's quite, let's say, is something that happens quite often because this is a course that, as you will see, let's say, allows to move from a, let's say, practical case where real life things have happened. And starting from there, extrapolate more theoretical, let's say, principles, also with links between other areas of law, but also of economics. Okay, so this is a course that has a strong imprinting on business aspects also. Therefore, it is appealing for many students because it allows to develop our own case, especially if you want to, let's say, enter in the industry of financial advisory, etc. However, since, let's say, we believe that preparing a master thesis is something that deserves attention and timing on our side, we accept thesis only for outstanding students. Therefore, you need to have received a high grade at the end of the class, okay? Which can be 30 or 29 or whatever, we will see, okay? So, this is what we expect. We wanted to be clear since the very first moment. Then maybe this is not an issue because you don't like the course, so nobody asks, but okay. Other aspects?
We could say that the written exam is going to be 2 questions, I guess, open questions.
Two questions for each case, so 4 in total.
Okay, so 4. One on the principles and one on the case itself.
Yeah. Okay. We will, since we are, let's say, illustrating to you, explaining to you, and covering with the case discussions and the written exams 2 cases per week, we will cover a good number of cases. Again, at the end of the course, we will, let's say, carve out a certain number of cases, and those will be the one in which you will receive the final oral question. Okay, so a reduction of the cases for the final oral exam. Okay, I think under an organizational perspective we have finished. So this class finishes at 12:30, right? I believe. Okay. So I suggest that maybe we can anticipate something for the next 30 minutes and then we finish at noon. Okay, because the core, let's say, part of this introduction class, the core part of this class today was to introduce the organization of the course, but I would like to spend 30 minutes, I would say until noon, in order to anticipate to you something that will accompany you during the whole semester, because it's an explanation of how the financial market works, and therefore it illustrates what are the players that we will be dealing with during our course from now until the end. Okay? I I believe I am also with the figure, but the graphic is more or less this one. Okay. So anyone who wants to try to guess what F on the right part of the graphic stands for? Please again consider this is a graphic representation of what the financial market is. Okay? So what F stands for, in your opinion? Not super easy, yeah? These are, again, subjects, so it's not finance, for instance. Very good. Finance. Your name?
Lorenzo
Surname?
Moscatelli.
So, the F here stands for families, okay? While E stands for, in your opinion?
Enterprises.
Very good. Good books. What's your name?
Francesco.
Surname?
Guerrera.
Guerrera?
Sì.
Guerrera. Enterprises. So, family and enterprises. I am putting a plus and a minus close to them for a reason. Families are those subjects within the circle of the financial markets that are in surplus of financial resources, in surplus of savings. This is the key word, savings. Enterprises, on the other hand, are entities, subjects that have a strong need of financial resources, and the way in which enterprises can obtain, can receive financial resources in the financial market is essentially what we will be studying during this class. Okay? We will explain that there are two main sources for enterprises to collect financial resources, meaning equity on the one hand, debt on the other hand. Then we will see also the different shades among the two, so hybrid instruments, etc., etc. But what matters here in this very first class is that you understand that the financial market is all about that. Is all about allowing the financial resources to move from entities who have a surplus of financial resources towards entities, the enterprises, that need those financial resources. And the way in which you want this to happen is to reduce to the maximum extent possible the transaction costs. So to allow that if 100 starts from here, they do not receive 50 because the remaining 50 are dispersed into the financial market circle, but they obtain at least 90, 80, etc. Okay? This is the scope of the financial market, and families, why are they subjects that are in surplus of savings? Because what do families do? They work. Employment activities, autonomous working activities, etc., etc. They also, let's say, obtain mortis causa richness from parents and relatives, etc., etc. So they gather financial resources, and they do not put them into the bed, under the bed, but usually want to invest them. And by investing money, you are veiculating, putting this financial resource into the financial markets, and somehow, we will explain how, these financial resources are transferred to those who need them. Again, the enterprises. Why enterprises need financial resources? Very easy. They have to pay salaries, they have to finance the development of their business plans, they have to grow on the market, they pay taxes. And this is the reason why the key element of the entire financial market working mechanism is represented by the savings, which are the financial resources that are transferred from the right side of this graphic by the families towards the enterprises. Every time you see savings involved, you will understand that the regulator in Italy and abroad applies different layers of regulation in order to protect saving holders. Okay? What BNI stands for, in your opinion? Please.
Investors?
No. Investors, I would say, is another way to call the families, no? Because an investor is better. BNA can be investors, but in this context here, they have a different role and therefore are identified differently. No, borrowers are the enterprises, the one that receive the investment. You?
Banks and intermediaries?
Very good. Banks is correct. EA, sorry, stands for insurance companies. Okay. Please, excuse me, your name.
Ola Jurchenko.
Okay, this is difficult. I will take note later. You there?
It's indirect.
Excuse me?
Indirect.
I mean, I stands for indirect.
Yes.
No, I stands for insurance companies. Okay? B stands for banks. Okay? This one is more difficult. B and D. Subjects again. What stands for, in your opinion? It's a little bit more difficult. But they play the same role. Someone here talked about intermediaries, anticipating something that I will be saying in a few moments, but let's try. You?
Brokers and dealers.
Very good. Brokers and dealers. So, these people here, banks, your name?
Giovanni Patara.
Sorry?
Patara.
Okay. These are the intermediaries. Someone mentioned them. You see, they are intermediaries because they stand here at the center of our graphic, and their role is the one of intermediating between families and enterprises. Subjects that are in surplus of savings, subjects that need financial resources, their task here is to facilitate the transferring of this money from here to here. And we will take care of both the ways in which this happens, equity, debt, investments, etc., and the rules that apply to these players. Because as you may imagine, if family here is a, I don't know, a physical person, natural person, here the enterprise is, let's say, an industrial company, a company that, I don't know, builds bridges, roads, railways, etc., etc. This enterprise here will be subject under Italian law, under European law, in other jurisdictions, will be subject to a certain legal framework that applies to a company that operates in the railway sector, a bank, which is an entity that collects the savings from the family, will have a different legal framework applicable to that. Why? Again, because of the savings. Because the activity of a bank, we will see that more in deep, is traditionally composed by two different phases. On the one hand, the bank collects the savings. On the other hand, the bank injects those savings in favor of the enterprises and more in general of the borrowers. Banks in Italy and abroad are the only entities capable of carrying out these two different activities, collecting savings, injecting money simultaneously. The only one. If tomorrow you open a joint stock company, SPA, that wants to do this job, collecting savings and injecting money, borrowing money to others, you cannot do that without a special authorization by the European Central Bank. If you do that, that is a crime. Okay? If you do that without this authorization, that is a crime. Why there is this, let's say, special legal framework that applies to these entities, the banks? Again, because banks collect and inject savings. Every time savings are involved, an additional layer of legislation, more deep, more strict, applies. Why? Because families are, let's say, the weak layer, the one that needs to be protected into this graphic here. So, as let's say an implication of the fact that you are a bank, you will have certain requirements that you have to comply with: honorability, professionalism, size, strength and stability of financial resources. You are subject to the surveillance of an authority that can be the Bank of Italy, it can be the European Central Bank, and again, this is the same in UK, is the same in US, is the same in France, etc., etc. Okay? An industrial company is not subject to the surveillance of a authority such as the Bank of Italy. Okay? Insurance companies is, let's say, the same. Why? Because for instance, I believe that many of you have a car, a motorbike, etc., etc. As you know, in Italy, you cannot drive these vehicles if you do not have an insurance company covering for any accidents. An insurance is nothing else than a contract in which the insured pays a certain amount of money that is called premium in order to, let's say, be sure that if an accident happens, the insurance will pay for the insurance. Okay, so insurance companies collect savings in the form of a premium, the one that you pay in order to maintain the policy alive. The insurance companies use this money in order to make investments, and these investments are made into enterprises that collect savings through the insurance company. Okay? So a similar role than that of the banks, but with different implications that we will see. For the same reason of the banks, since also insurance companies collect savings, they are subject to a surveillance activity that is carried out not by the Bank of Italy. In Italy, is carried out by the so-called IVAS. Okay? And the same again applies also in other jurisdictions. Broker and dealers. Broker and dealers are, let's say, intermediaries that can carry out only one of the two phases that we have been mentioning before, in the sense that they are intermediaries that with different mechanisms. I will go short now, but then in the next classes we will go more in depth. They solicit from the public, from the families, an investment in a certain enterprise, okay? An enterprise that can be let's say, already present in their basket of titles. So I am a broker. I come to you and say, look, I have this great opportunity to invest in this company. A, more risky. B, medium risk. C, low risk. Do you want to invest in one of them? Yes, no. So you have a chance to address your investment towards A or B or C. Dealers instead have, and these titles, sorry, A, B, and C are already in the hands of the broker. Dealers instead say, you want to invest, tell me what are your, let's say, expectations, objectives, characteristics. I will look for you in the market for a instrument, a financial instrument that is tailor-made for you with the characteristics that you want. I will buy it for you and I will take a commission, a fee. Okay, so did you see the Wolf of Wall Street? Okay, I believe so. Leonardo DiCaprio acted both as a broker and a dealer. Okay, this is the activity that we have. So the main difference between the North Pole here, upper side, and the South Pole, downside of this graphic is that here families decide directly, explicitly, towards which enterprise they can inject money. And they do that through broker and dealers. So I want to invest in A, please put my money in A. Differently here in the north part of the graphic, the investment is indirect, because when a family, for instance, open a bank account in a bank in order to deposit its money, the bank uses those money to make an investment, and what matters for the family is that they will withdraw money from the ATM, the money are there. But those are not the same money that they've deposited, okay? Those money, in the meantime, are used by the bank in order to make investments, make borrowings, etc., etc. So, in that case, it is the bank that uses your money in favor of the enterprises without you knowing that, okay? You are not in a position to address the investment here. This is why the same for insurance companies. This is why the upper side here of the graphic is called the indirect circuit, and the downside here is called the direct circuit. Everything clear? One last thing. As you may have understood, this, and as I anticipated, this is what we will be studying here. This is what we will be studying here because we will study how these financial resources are injected into the financial market thanks to the activities of the intermediaries. We will study the rules governing the functioning of the intermediaries, and last but not least, we will study the rules governing the functioning of the enterprises. Corporate governance, especially those listed enterprises, those companies that have their stakes traded on the market. Okay? The Euronext Milan, which is the Italian Stock Exchange, especially with a particular focus on those rules, but also with a broader view on European rules applying to listed companies. So we will talk about insider trading, we will talk about the takeover bids, mandatory, voluntary, there are cases ad hoc on that. We will talk about the IPO process, the listing process, related parties transactions, and so on. To conclude, enterprises here, when they go public, they are listed, again, they collect savings from the market, so for a huge number of people, they become the recipient of an additional layer of regulation, which is the Consolidated Financial Act in Italy, and become subject to a surveillance monitoring activity by an authority. In Italy, CONSOB, abroad, the SEC, etc., etc. Okay? So, these are the players that will be the main characters of our course, and the rules governing these mechanisms will be what we will study here, what we will discuss, and what we will, let's say, have the chance to understand for every, let's say, purpose that you may have, interest, professional aspects, etc., etc. Okay? Everything clear? I think it's enough. Okay? Thank you very much. We'll see you on Friday. Bye-bye. Again, the book is crucial. This is the book. I suggest you to buy it as soon as possible.